the nights in neon cities will never be truly peaceful. The sky was obscured by countless huge holographic billboards, and the flashing blue and red light pierced into people's eyes like a knife. The streets were filled with old floating cars, roaring over low altitude, and the tail gas was mixed with the smell of garbage, making people unable to breathe. The high-rise building is filled with clouds, and there is only darkness and urgency in the alleys on the bottom. My name is Lin Yi. I am 23 years old, a dog on the base of Neon City. It is said that the good thing is a street gangster, and the hard thing is that the little thing is a stinger who may be trampled to death at any time. In this city, people with no background and no strength are almost the same as gambling while living, and may spend their lives at any time. Tonight, I've gone again. Lin Yi, do you still dare to hide? It's been 3 months since the money owed to the boss of the Iron Claw. Is it alive? A guy with a scar on his face blocked me, staring at me like a wolf. His name is Scar, and he is a powerful thug under the Iron Claws, who is responsible for cleaning up the wastes like us, which are not long-lived. I collapsed in the corner of the alley, leaning against a pile of broken electronic garbage, and my body was still bleeding. I was beaten up by this guy and my ribs were probably cut off, so I was so excited. I gritted my teeth and smiled. Brother Scar, give me some time, I will definitely make a fortune, really, give me 3 days. 3 days? Scar sneered, stepping on my chest, so hard that I almost vomited blood. Are you a mother of philanthropist? Boss Ironclaw said, if you don't know what you are today, don't want to have such a life. I felt a sudden turn in my heart and knew that I was really disappointed this time. Ironclaw is a big shot in the underground world of Neon City. He controls countless black helping businesses, from drugs to data smuggling, and everything is dirty. On his floor, there was only one next door that was owed to his debt's death. Or even more so, they became their test products and were sold to the underground laboratory, and even the body could not be found. Brother Scar, please. Before I finished speaking, he kicked my face with 1 foot, his teeth relaxed, and his mouth was full of blood. Please? Please, my mother. Drag it down and throw it into the Heishui River to feed the fish. Scar snatched his hand, and the 2 little brothers next to him stood up to hold me and prepared to drag me deep into the alley. I slammed, and there was only one thought in my brain, I can't be so dead. I haven't had enough time and haven't made a break in this broken day yet. I gritted my teeth and grabbed the garbage on the ground with my hands, looking for something to resist. At this moment, my fingers touched something cold. It is a small chip, the size of a palm, with a blue light on the surface, and it looks like some kind of high-end goods. My brain was so hot that I didn't care what this thing was and stuffed it into my pocket. At that moment, I didn't know why, but a strange sense of inexplicable aura suddenly burst into my heart. Let me go! I yelled, exerted the last force, and suddenly hit a little brother, running out of the alley. Looking for death. Scar roared, pulled out the electric rod from his waist, and chased after him with the person. I ran stumbled, and the pain in my ribs pierced me like a knife, but I didn't dare to stop. Outside the alley is the main street of Neon City. The lights are dazzling and the crowds are swaying. As long as I can get in, I have the chance to get rid of them. I gasped, my brain was in a mess, and the chip in my pocket hurt my thighs. After running for a few steps, Scar's voice came from behind, Lin Yi, you can't escape. The whole Neon City is full of iron claws, where can you run? My heart sank, knowing that what he was saying was true. This city looks extremely prosperous on the surface, but in fact it is a huge prison. The bottom-level people have no way out, and even breathing is a luxury. I bit my teeth tightly, turned into a narrower alley, holding the wall with my hands, gasping for breath. At this moment, the chip in the pocket suddenly shook. What's the thing? I was stunned and took it out and saw that the surface of the chip was brighter and a low-frequency buzzing sound came out. My heart was tightened and a sound suddenly appeared in my brain. The host was detected and the system is being started. I shook my hand and almost threw the chip away. What is this, mother? Fantasy? Or is there any problem with this thing? I looked down and saw a line of small words appearing on the chip, hologram invasion system, in a state of stability. My brain buzzed and I was stunned. In Neon City, there are so many high-tech things, but I have only heard of this kind of thing that can directly talk to the human brain. It is said that some top-level visitors can use similar chips to invade the internet world and become the king of data, but how can this appear in the garbage dump? The determination is successful. Host, Lin Yi. Ability, Internet invasion, data analysis. Is it starting the first physical experience? The sound began again, as cold as a machine, but every word exploded in my brain like thunder. I swallowed, my heart beat so fast that it was about to explode. What is this? Goldfinger? Or a trap? Lin Yi, you are dead. Scar's roar came from the entrance of the alley, carrying a murderous atmosphere. I gritted my teeth, felt my heart suffocated, and said in a low voice, "Start." As the voice fell, a sudden flash of light appeared in front of my eyes, and countless blue data flowed out of the field, rushing into my brain like a waterfall. My whole portrait seemed to be hit by an electric shock, and my head was bursting, but at the same time, an unprecedented sense of power also swelled up in my heart. I looked down and saw a faint blue light appearing on my palm. "What's this? What's going on?" I murmured, and suddenly there was a lot of information in my brain, as if someone directly stuffed a book into my mind. The information told me that this chip could allow me to invade any network system, control data, and even interfere with actual electronic equipment. "Brother Scar, he's here." The voice of a little brother broke my thoughts. I suddenly turned around and found that Scar had blocked the alley. "Run? Keep running." Scar sneered, sparking in his hand, approaching me step by step. My heart was tight, but the data flow in my brain suddenly gave me a reminder: there is an electronic locked floating car nearby that can interfere. My eyes lit up, staring at the Scar, and silently chanted in my brain, "Invade." The next second, I felt my consciousness as if I had left my body and instantly dripped into a virtual data space. There are countless numbers and dates in front of me. I followed the chip's guidance and found a data package representing the floating car and hit it hard. Road! A huge sound suddenly came from outside the alley, and a floating car parked on the road suddenly lost control. The engine roared and rushed directly towards Scar's and the others. "What the hell?" Scar's face changed and he hurriedly hid, but a little brother beside him did not react and was directly hit by a car and smashed into the wall. He didn't even have time to make a scream. When I watched this scene, my brain was a little confused, but it was more of an unprecedented feeling of pleasure. What is this mother's ability? Can I actually control the machine? "Lin Yi, what are you doing?" Scar yelled at me with red eyes, pointing at me with a stick, and his body trembling with anger. I grinned. For the first time I felt that I was not the dog that would be trampled to death at any time. I lowered my head and looked at the blue light on my hands, and the data flow in my brain was still moving wildly, telling me that there were more equipment to use near me. I raised my head and stared at Scar, with a low voice, "Brother Scar, aren't you very awesome? Come on, keep beating me. You are looking for death." Scar roared and knocked over. The electric rod in his hand pointed directly at my brain. My heart was tight, but it didn't retreat, and the data flow in my brain had locked his electric rod. I shook my hand suddenly, and I realized that I entered the data space again, directly cutting off the power of the power rod. Bang! A string of sparks appeared from the electric rod and extinguished it directly in his hand. Scar was stunned for a moment, looked down at the waste iron in his hand, his face green. What is going on with his mother? What's going on? I stood up straight with a sneer. Although my body was still hurt, the fire in my heart was already burning. "Brother Scar, the times have changed, and now I'm going to fight back." After saying that, the data flow in my brain flowed again. This time I locked the head of the monitoring image at the entrance of the alley, directly activated its voltage, and instantly released a high-pressure arc. The arc accurately hit Scar's shoulder. He screamed, covered his smoked arm and knelt down, looking at me in amazement. "Lin Yi, are you a monster?" "Monster? I sneered, walked slowly over, and looked down at his wolf-like appearance. Brother Scar, aren't you just saying I'm a dog? Why are you kneeling down now? Scar gritted his teeth, his face full of reluctance, but there was already fear in his eyes. The remaining little brother on his side had already been shocked, his legs shaking like chaff. I felt so happy that for the first time I felt that I was not a waste to be slaughtered. This chip, this ability, is simply the opportunity to flip the disk that God gave me. But I didn't keep on doing it because the data flow in my brain warned me that the chip's energy is limited and excessive use may backfire. Scar, go back and tell Hitpaw that I will still have the money I owe him, but not now. I said coldly, turning around and walking out of the alley. Also, don't let me hear the sound of today, otherwise, next time it will not be as simple as an arc. Scar didn't say anything, just stared at me fiercely, but I knew he didn't dare to act. I walked out of the alley, and the night wind blew on my face. The neon city lights made my eyes a little sore, but I only had one thought in my heart: for this city, Lin Yi is about to turn around. I looked down at the chip in my hand. The blue light was still flashing, and the data flow in my brain was still moving. I know that this thing is not simple, and there will definitely be more troubles in the future. At this moment, the phone in my pocket suddenly hit me. I took it out and saw that it was a small blue. This kid is my dead party from childhood to adulthood, and he is also a street guest. He always helps me wipe my butt. Brother Yi, are your mother still alive? I heard that Scar has taken someone to find you. Little Blue's voice came from the listening tube, full of worry. I grinned, held the chip tightly, and said in a low voice, "Life, and live better than before." Where are you? I have a big discovery, we have to have a good chat. The voice of the Little Blue came from the mobile phone, carrying a slutty atmosphere. Brother Yi, where are you? I am in an old place, a waste bar. Do you think you have a big discovery? What's the thing? Don't tell me the rumor about which gangster helps me, I won't accompany you to die. I held the phone, squirted the corner of my mouth, and glanced down at the chip in my hand. The blue light was still flashing slightly, as if I was talking to me. I pressed my low voice and couldn't hide a burst of excitement in my language. Little Blue, this time is different. I have something in my hand, the cow is so cow that I just knelt down and begged by me. You wait for me, 10 minutes. What? Scar knelt down and begged? Brother Yi, you mom doesn't make drafts. Xiaolan clearly didn't believe it, and her language was full of hymns, but she still reiterated, okay, I'll wait for you, don't let me wait in vain, otherwise I won't ask you to drink. I hung up the phone and took a deep breath. The night winds of neon cities were scattered with the smell of iron and garbage, making people feel awake. Although that wave of operation was so good, the energy warning of the chip was still responding in my brain. I know that this thing cannot be used interferingly, otherwise it will be backfired, and you may have to spend your life. The waste iron bar is in the basement area of Neon City, not far from me, you can reach it in a few alleys. I stuffed the chip into my inner pocket, lowered my hat, and mixed into the crowd on the main street. The lights here are dazzling, and the streets are full of small bags selling cheap items and data cards, and those wandering huddles with empty eyes, squatting on the road and smoking inferior electronic smoke. I walked quickly with my head down, afraid that Scar would kill him again. Without taking a few steps, a sudden ding sound in the brain, and the sound of the chip sounded again. It was detected that there was a high-risk signal around the host, and it was recommended to enter the data space to scan. High-risk signal? I felt nervous, stopped walking, and glanced around. There is nothing unusual about people coming on the street, but the feeling of being stared at is getting stronger and stronger. I gritted my teeth and silently said in a low voice, "Scan." I know that I enter the data space in an instant, and there are countless green and red data streams in front of me, like a river running in my sight. Following the chip's guidance, I locked a red spot and suddenly found that there were several hidden signals approaching me. It was a commonly used tracker under iron claws. Mom, this guy Scar is really not giving up. I lowered my voice, and I knew I had left the data space, and I turned around and turned into an alley. The signal of the tracker is getting closer and closer. I know I can't fight hard, so I'm flying in my brain and moving forward with a solution. The chip energy is limited, and the risk of directly invading their equipment is too great, so we must find a way to get rid of them. There is a huge holographic billboard in the alley, with a dazzling pink light, and a certain functional advertisement is played on it, and the sound effect is noisy and painful. I stared at the billboard and suddenly a flash of spirit. This thing is a data point. If I could get in, I might be able to create confusion and cover my traces. Chip, invade the billboard. I whispered the order, and I realized that I entered the data space again. This time I was much more familiar with the practice than before, and I quickly found the control core of the billboard and cracked the firewall in a few seconds. The data flowed wildly in my brain. I directly modified the playback content of the billboard, adjusted the volume to the maximum, and implanted a code interference signal. Win. The billboard suddenly sounded sharp sound, and the picture turned into a snowflake. The sound effect was like a thunderbolt, making the whole alley tremble. The crowd on the road exploded in an instant, some people screamed and some cursed, and the scene was in a mess. I took the opportunity to lower my head and rush out of the alley and mix into the crowd. The signal of the tracker was indeed disturbed and moved away. It's done. I gasped and wiped the sweat off my head, feeling secretly happy. This chip is really a treasure. You can turn it around with just one hand. However, the energy warning in the brain started to sound again, reminding me that the chip is too hot and cannot be used in a short period of time. I gritted my teeth and endured my head, speeded up my pace, and finally arrived at the waste bar 10 minutes later. This place was so broken that there was a bunch of raw iron cards hanging from the door, filled with cheap alcohol and smell of sweat. Little Blue sat in the corner, wearing a torn denim jeans, holding a bottle of beer in her hand, and saw me coming in, and stood up and said, "Brother Yi, here. You mother is really alive, it's so bad." I grinned, sat opposite him, took a sip of the beer he had come over, and the spicy taste made me brow straight. Wow, I'm very hard-earned. The guy with scar was ruined by me, and I guess he's still vomiting blood in the alley. Xiaolan looked at me up and down. Just blow it, you can be fooled by such a cruel person as Scar? Tell me, what a big discovery, don't sell the secret. I smiled, and took out the chip from my inner pocket, and the blue light looked particularly eyed in the dim bar. The little blue eyes suddenly straightened and almost threw the beer bottle to the ground. Bored, what's this thing? High-end goods. Where did you bring it? It's a waste, it's in the garbage. I briefly said that of course I didn't mention the fact that the chip could talk to my brain directly. After all, this thing was too remote, so I guess he didn't believe it. This thing can hack the internet, and I just rely on it to get rid of the Scar's tracking. But I think this thing is not simple, and there may be marijuana in the back. Xiao Blue's eyes lit up, and his fingers hit the table, excited. Brother Yi, this is really an opportunity to flip the plate. The online world of Neon City is all hidden. As long as it can be hacked, you can get any information. Isn't Iron Claw's help owes you a debt? We just hack into their system, expose all their dirty transactions, and cheat them hard. I felt that this idea was good. The Black Helper like the Iron Claw is awesome on the surface, but there must be a lot of invisible tricks behind him. If they can get a certificate, they will not only be able to take revenge, but they may also be in trouble. But I still asked, can this work? The Iron Claw system is not something that ordinary people can touch. The firewall is as thick as a city wall. Xiaolan smiled and patted her chest. With me here, any firewall can be removed. Although I am not as good as you, I am a street guest at least, and I have never been in vain for the past few years. Let's start with small goals, such as those holographic billboards, and they hear that Iron Claws use them to transmit dark codes and conduct underground transactions. We cracked the dark codes and said that we might be able to dig out large materials. Dark code? My eyes lit up, and I remembered the billboard just now, and there was indeed something weird that I couldn't describe. Those flashing screens and sounds always feel that there is something secret. I clicked, okay, that's it. Let's move tonight and choose a billboard to try it. Little Blue Lima took out his broken notebook and started collecting information online, and said, "Brother Yi, we have to be careful. People with iron claws are everywhere. Once they are exposed, they will probably have no life." I snorted coldly and knocked my fingers on the table. "What are you afraid of? I just escaped from Scar's hand and am now holding my anger. Isn't I trying to kill me? Then let's see who will fall down first." After a few hours, the night was getting deeper, and the streets of Neon City became even hotter. We picked a billboard located on the edge of the bottom area, which is a place with few people and is suitable for action. The billboard is extremely huge, flashing with blue-purple light, playing some boring product advertisements, with a low sound effect like a lullaby. Little Blue squatted beside her, her fingers quickly knocking on the notebook, and said in a low voice, "Brother Yi, I found the entrance. There is an encryption layer in the backdrop of this billboard, but it is not too difficult. I am responsible for opening the firewall. You can use that chip to directly penetrate the core and see if there is any dark code." I clicked my head, took a deep breath, and silently said, "Invade." The consciousness enters the data space again, and this time the data flow is much more complicated than before, like countless poisonous snakes around it. I followed the guidance given by the Blue, avoided several obvious traps, and finally found a hidden spot. When I clicked and saw that there were indeed a bunch of malfunctions hidden inside, but the chips in my brain quickly resolved and quickly turned into a series of transaction records. Cross. I was shocked in a low voice, and returned to reality. I said to Xiaobiao, "The Iron Claw really uses this thing to transmit information. This is all their black goods transaction records, drugs, data smuggling, and even data from the physical experiments of the human body. If this breaks out, the Iron Claw will be suppressed by the forces of the entire Neon City." The Little Blue eyes were red, and he was so excited that he slapped his thighs. "Brother Yi, he was fucked beautifully. We are now hacking into their trading system, sending all these certificates to the dark network, and turning the Iron Claws into street mice." I gritted my teeth and pointed, and I realized that I entered the data space again. This time the target is the core trading system of the Iron Claw, and the firewall is thick and thick, but I cooperated with Xiaolan, and he was responsible for starting the defense program, so I directly pushed the core. The data flow in the brain was running wildly, and the chip was overheard warnings kept urging, but I gritted my teeth and finally broke through the last wall at the last moment. "It's done!" I growled, quickly packaged the transaction records and certificates, and posted them anonymously through the dark network. In order to increase the fire, I also specially implanted a virus, which caused the Iron Claw system to collapse directly, and even repairs could not be done well. When my consciousness retreated, I was sweating heavily, and my brain hurt like I was hit by a slaughter. Xiaolan looked at me and worshipped her face. "Brother Yi, your mother is so amazing. This Iron Claw is over. The dark network is full of their crimes. I guess the Black Alliance has to pay them a fortune." I grinned. Although I was so tired, I felt very happy. This is just now. Didn't I want to kill me? I want him to know what the next scene of Lin Yi who messed up with me. At this moment, the billboard suddenly sounded heat, the picture turned black, and then the sound of rapid footsteps around the alley was heard. A low voice came from the darkness. "Lin Yi, you really have a system that dares to move your Iron Claws? Tonight, don't want to leave alive." My heart sank. When I turned around, I saw several black shadows approaching from the entrance of the alley, with scars on my head, and the murderous intention in my eyes could not be dissolved. He was holding an electromagnetic knife in his hand, and the cold light flash was obviously coming to play. The Little Blue face turned pale and said in a low voice, "Brother Yi, what should I do? Should we run or fuck?" I clenched my fists and the blue light of the chip in my brain lit up again. Although the energy was almost exhausted, I knew that this battle could not be avoided. I sneered and stood up. "What are you running away? Scar, I just gave you my life, do you dare to come? Tonight, let's see who will lie down first." I stood in the alley, and the night wind made my body hurt, but the fire in my heart was more powerful than anything else. Scar came over with several thugs, and the electromagnetic knife was flashing cold light in his hand, his eyes as if they were about to eat me. Little Blue stood behind me, her face turned pale, her hands were already touching the self-made electrician around her waist, and muttered in a low voice, "Brother Yi, this helping guys is really good. Can we stay on top?" I sneered and glanced at the scar. Although the chip light in my brain was weak, it was still jumping. I know that the energy is almost exhausted, but retraction at this time is not my style. I whispered back to the Blue, "You have to be on the top even if you can't hold it." I just shook out all the dirty things of the iron claws. "If you don't kill them now, they will kill us if they'll kill us." Scar heard this and his face became darker, and he gritted his teeth and shouted, "Lin Yi, do you really think it's awesome to enter the system? I not only take your life tonight, but also to snatch your broken thing and hand it over to the Iron Claw boss. Brothers, come on, kill him." As the voice fell, several thugs studded the horses and came over. The weapons in their hands were varied, including magnetic knives, high-pressure sticks, and metal fists, which were extremely energetic. I felt nervous, but I didn't have time to think about it anymore, and my brain silently said, "Chip, scan the surrounding equipment." The consciousness entered the data space in an instant. Although my head hurt so much that it was about to crack, the data flow still gave me a response. There were several old road lights near the alley and a broken unmanned plane parked in the corner, which could be used as weapons at any time. I gritted my teeth and endured the heat sting of the chip, quickly locked the control point of the road lamp, and slapped it hard. Bang! A dazzling spark suddenly burst out from the road lights in the alley, and the voltage suddenly rolled over, and several arcs whipped at the front thug like whips. The guy couldn't hide in time, and was swept over with a cry, and he fell to the ground with a terrifying face. "What's the thing?" Scar was stunned for a moment and roared angrily, "Lin Yi, you are making trouble again. Be careful, this kid is weird." I gasped, and my mind retreated back to reality, and my head was so terrified, but I still sneered, "Scar, didn't you just say you were going to kill me? Come on, keep." As I spoke, I locked the broken machine again. Although it was old and quickly reported, the engine was still useful. I directly cut into the control system and started it with force. Buzz! The unmanned engine roared and flew up crookedly, urging towards Scars and the others as if drunk. Several thugs were scared to open, but Scar reacted quickly and slashed the unmanned machine into 2.5. The fragments hit the ground, and a black smoke appeared. "Just this little trick?" Scar sneered, pointing the magnetic knife at me, his eyes full of murder. "Lin Yi, have you used up your tricks? I see how long you can hold." My heart sank, knowing that the chip energy is really almost limiting. The warning sound in my brain is getting faster and faster, and even my vision is becoming blurred. When Xiaoya saw my face wrong, she hurriedly said in a low voice, "Brother Yi, don't fight hard. Let's run first and find a place to calm down." "Run?" I gritted my teeth and slammed my head. "I can't run, the iron claws won't let us go. If I don't solve it today, the numbness behind me is even more numb." Before the words finished, the Scar had already been knocked over, and the electromagnetic knife slashed my brain with the sound of the broken wind. My side flashed, and the blade brushed against my shoulders, and my clothes were cut into pieces, which hurt so much. "Go to die." Scar missed, and Lima slashed again with his backhand, and the speed was too fast to escape. I couldn't use chips at all, so I fell to the ground purely by instinct, and then pulled around before I could hide. The little blue figure gritted his teeth and rushed up. The electric machine in his hand poked Scar's back hard, and a string of sparks appeared. "Ah!" Scar felt pain and turned around and kicked the little blue. The force was so strong that he threw him to the corner of the wall, covering his stomach and unable to get up. I watched the little blue beating, and my heart was filled with anger and roared, "Scar, you mother is looking for death." The chip warning sound in the brain is already very harsh, but I don't care, and I will go into the data space again. This time I didn't look for small equipment, but I directly locked an old power center deep in the alley, which was the power supply core of the entire street. The risk was extremely high, but the power was also extremely high. I bit my teeth tightly, and I cut it into the firewall like a knife, and in a few seconds, I broke a hole. "Carry start," I growled, and a low-frequency thunder burst out in the middle of the power instantly. The lights in the whole alley flashed wildly. The current stormed like a flood, turning into a huge electric arc, directly shaking them. Room! The arc hit the ground, and the explosion-like shock wave directly overturned the Scar and the remaining thugs, and the alley was filled with burnt smell. Scar covered his blackened arms, knelt on the ground, looking at me with disbelief. "Lin Yi, what monster is your mother?" "Monster?" I gasped, and my mind retreated to reality. My head hurt so much that I could hardly stand, but I still sneered. "Scar, I'm the one who kills you. Tell the Iron Claw, this is just the beginning, and it's time to get to him." Scar gritted his teeth, his face full of reluctance, but he certainly didn't dare to take action again. The thugs beside him had already been shocked, and several were killed by the electric power, and the rest were free when they got up. I know I can't drag it anymore. The backlash of the chip has made my eyes dark and it may pass by at any time. I helped the little blue up and said in a low voice, "Go away, retreat first." The little blue head was dotted, gritting my teeth and enduring the pain, and stumbled out of the alley. Scar didn't chase him. I guess I was really scared by that moment, but his eyes told me that this was not over. The night wind makes people feel cold, and there's only one thought in my brain: Iron Claws, I have calculated this account with you. After a few hours, Xiaolan and I hid in an old underground hiding spot. This place is a hacker's house in Xiaolan, full of broken electronic equipment and moldy smell. I sat down against the wall, and the backlash in my brain finally came a little, but my hands were still shaking, and the blue light on the chip was so dark that it was almost invisible. Xiaolan took a bottle of water and gave it to me, and his face was full of worry. "Brother Yi, you were too fierce just now, but you were also too hard. Although the Iron Claw's certificate was released, we are now like stabbing the horse bee, and they will never be able to stop. What should we do next?" I drooled, the thirst in my throat relieved, and my brain began to move quickly. I broke the Iron Claw's trading system, and the secret internet certificates also exploded. I guess the entire underground force of Neon City is discussing this matter. But this far away is not enough. If a person like the Iron Claw is not killed, he will bite back like a poisonous snake. "Can't sit and wait," I said softly, narrowing my eyes. "Little Blue, although the power of the Iron Claw is great, he also has weaknesses. Just in those transaction records, I saw a guy with the name Old Ghost, like a traitor inside them. The Iron Claws are chasing him. If I could find this person, I might be able to dig out more materials and uproot the Iron Claws directly." Xiaolan was stunned and his eyes lit up. "Old Ghost? I have heard this name. It is said that it is an old detective who specializes in investigating the dark transactions in Neon City. The Iron Claw hates him to the core, but he has never caught anyone. But Brother Yi, this guy is in a difficult position. Where can we find it?" I looked down at the chip. Although the blue light was weak, a familiar voice suddenly echoed in my brain. "Host, I detected the data traces related to the Old Ghost. Will the search be activated?" I was surprised. Can this chip actually actively give prompts? I gritted my teeth and recited silently, "Search." I was reluctant to enter the data space. Although it hurt so much, I still saw a series of vague data streams pointing to a waste factory in the northern area of Neon City. The sound of the chip then echoed. The Old Ghost finally appeared at the location, the northern area wasteland. It is recommended that the host go to investigate, but it should be noted that the Iron Claw force has been deployed in this area. It's done. I retreated to reality and grinned at Xiaobiao. Old Ghost is in the northern area factory. We will meet him tonight. If the Iron Claw wants to catch him, we will take the lead and pull this guy up here. The little blue head was still a little hesitant on his face, but he still started to pack up his equipment. "Okay, Brother Yi, I'll hear you. But the place in the north is an Iron Claw ground. We have to be careful not to hit their surroundings. The night is getting deeper and deeper, and the wasteland area in the north of Neon City is dead silent, with only the lights far away, like ghost fire." I went in the dark with Xiaolan. The wasteland was filled with raw machinery and broken containers, and the air was filled with oily smell. The chips in my brain often warn me of the monitoring equipment with iron claws nearby, but I lack energy and can only rely on the naked eye and the equipment with small blue to avoid it. "Brother Yi, here," Xiaolan said in a low voice, pointing to a small hut deep in the wasteland, with a faint light coming out of the door. I clicked my head, lowered my body and approached it, my ears stuck on the door, and I noticed that there was a sandy sound in the low words, "Iron Claw, you will pay the price early." I moved my heart and pushed the door lightly. There was a skinny old man sitting inside, full of facial patterns, and his eyes were as sharp as a knife. He saw us, touched the weapon at his waist, and asked coldly, "Who? The Iron-Clawed dog?" "Don't mistake it." I raised my hands and said in a low voice, "We are not Iron Claws. My name is Lin Yi. I just got into their system and found their guilt. I heard that you are an old ghost, and we are here to cooperate with you and fuck the Iron Claws together." The old ghost narrowed his eyes, looked at me up and down, and then sneered for a while. "Little ghost, the stinger is not small. Not everyone can touch the Iron Claw system. Do you really have this ability?" I grinned and took out the chip. Although the blue light was dim, it still made the old ghost's pupils shrink. He was silent for a moment, and finally pointed, "Okay, I believe you once. The core secret of the Iron Claws is in their virtual black network. Only by cracking that system can they be destroyed. But I warn you that I can't even break through the firewall in that place, and the Iron Claws are sitting in the town. Are you sure you want to win this?" "Caught." I gritted my teeth, and a ruthlessness ignited in my heart. I will never have a way out if the Iron Claws are not dead. Tell me how to enter the black network. I want to kill him with my own hands. The old ghost pointed his head and took out an ancient data card from it and sent it to me. "This is the key to enter the black net, but there is only one chance. The Iron Claw already knew that you were doing something, and now and virtually are chasing you. After entering, you will be dead for a lifetime." I received the data card and my fingers trembled slightly, but I only had one thought in my heart: what if I die for a lifetime? I have no way out. Xiaolan looked at me, her eyes were complicated, and she said in a low voice, "Brother Yi, I will follow you and fight." That night, Xiaolan and I, under the guidance of Lao Gui, connected to the entrance of the Haynet. The moment I entered the data space, I felt like I had fallen into a dark ocean without a trace, and countless red data streams were scattered like fish, trying to tear my mind apart. The chip's energy is almost exhausted, and every step forward is like dancing on the tip of a knife. "Lin Yi, you are indeed here." A cold voice suddenly erupted, and deep in the data space, a huge virtual figure appeared slowly. It was the conscious projection of the Iron Claws, like a giant steel iron beast, and the eyes were full of murder. "Do you think you can move me by hacking into a few small systems? Tonight, I will crush you in the virtual world, and you will actually become a corpse." My heart was tightened, and the pressure of the Iron Claws made me almost breathless. The flow of data in the space of consciousness began to attack violently, cutting my spirit like a knife. I gritted my teeth and squeezed my brain and moved quickly. I knew that I would die if I fought hard, so I could only find the weak point. The old ghost's prompt replied in my brain: "The core of the black net is the identity point of the Iron Claw. If you smash it, you can destroy the entire system. Little Blue, help me drag it out." I growled, and my mind shook the data point towards the Iron Claws. Xiaolan gritted his teeth and created interference on the side. Although he didn't have a chip, his technology was so hard that he broke out several defense lines and won a line of machine for me. The Iron Claws sneered, and the data flowed into countless sharp claws and slapped at me. "Lin Yi, you are just a dog. How dare you challenge me? Die!" In the virtual space, I felt that my consciousness was torn to pieces, but at this moment, the chip issued the last warning, and a faint and fatal energy burst out. "Go to your mother!" I roared, concentrating all my strength, and my mind hitting the core of the Iron Claw like a cannon. A sound of thundering birds came out in the data space, and the virtual figure of the Iron Claws instantly shattered, turning into countless fragments and scattered. The system of the Black Network began to report mistakes, like a skyscraper building that was about to collapse. Lin Yi. The Iron Claw's roar replied in the data space, with no regrets. Wait, I won't let you go. His voice became weaker and weaker, and the crashing wave of the system directly popped up my mind in Xiao Blue. Back to reality, I suddenly opened my eyes, sweating heavily, almost silenced. The little Blue is not much better. Her face is white, but her eyes are full of excitement. Brother Yi, it's done. The black net has collapsed, and the Iron Claws are in trouble. I grinned, feeling very happy, but I didn't have time to say anything. A sudden hurried footstep sound came from outside the hiding point, accompanied by the roar of Scar. Lin Yi, you mother can't run away. The boss of the Iron Claw came here and smashed the door to me. My heart sank, clenched my fists tightly, and looked at Xiaolan and Lao Gui. It seems that the real battle is not over yet. Be prepared, we have to fight for another game. The broken door at the hiding point was kicked open with a sharp twist, and the iron door made a harsh twist, dust and iron chips. Scar's face appeared at the door, followed by more than a dozen murderous thugs, and the weapons in his hands were flashing with cold light. What made people's skin even more numb was that standing at the end of the crowd was a tall man with his face and cheeks bearded, his eyes as cold as a knife. Iron Claws, the king of the underground world of neon cities. He came by himself. Lin Yi, you are so kind. The sound of the Iron Claws was as low as if they were coming from the ground. He walked in step by step, and a sense of pressure scattered all over his body, as if he could silence the air. You have broken the black net, Zhongli, and my strength has been lost for several billion yuan. Do you know what the price is? Tonight, I will crush you with my hands. I leaned against the wall and just came a little by little from the backlash of data space. My brain was still hurt. The blue light on the chip was completely out, and I couldn't count on it in a short period of time. The old wounds on my body are not damaged, and the new ones are added. The pain in my ribs makes me feel like I am being stabbed every time I take a breath. But looking at the high-level appearance of the Iron Claws, the fire in my heart became even more intense. Iron Claws, don't be fooled. I gritted my teeth and stood up straight. Although my legs were shaking, I never regretted it. I have removed your broken system. Do you still have the energy to put it in front of me? I'm going to die tonight, and I'm going to die. Come. Xiaolan stood beside me, her face turned pale, but she still held the camera tightly with her head and said in a low voice, Brother Yi, we have few people, so we will probably fight hard. Why don't I hold them back? You run first and find a chance to fight back. The old ghost also narrowed his eyes and stood up from the corner. He had an old electromagnetic gun in his hand at some point. He said in a sandy manner, Little ghost, you can't run away. The Iron Claws come here, and there must be people outside. Running is a dead end. If you want to live, you must fuck him. The Iron Claw sneered, his eyes swept over the three of us, as if he was looking at the 3 lambs to be slaughtered. A bunch of garbage. Do you want to fight back? Scar, don't waste time, kill them, and sweep that chip over. Scar pointed at the head and suddenly slapped his hand. More than 10 thugs, rising horses, rushed over. The weapon was breeze and could not be destroyed. I felt nervous and knew that I could not escape this battle. My brain moved at a rapid speed and looked for any opportunity to turn around. Although the chip has no energy, I just remembered a little of his weakness when I was in the data space. This guy's left arm is a body. Although it is powerful, the reaction speed is delayed. As long as I can grasp this point, I may be able to take a try. Go! I growled and actively rushed towards the thug in front. When I got short, I hit a gangster and rushed over the electric stick in his hand, and smashed it hard on another person's brain. The guy yelled and fell down, but I was also stabbed on the shoulder, and the blood instantly dyed my clothes, making me so much pain that I was so angry. Xiaolan and Laogui were not idle either. Xiaolan relied on his flexible body movements and kept squeezing his opponents with the electric device. Laogui opened his guns calmly, and every time he made it precisely hit the enemy's knees or wrists, causing them to lose their fighting power. But there are too many people on the other side, and the 3 of us are like small boats in storms, which may be overturned at any time. Lin Yi, don't prick it. The Iron Claw snorted coldly and finally moved. The body of his left arm burst into a low bird, turning into a huge mechanical claw, and smashing it at me with a terrifying force. I gritted my teeth and flicked my head, rubbed my claws over and smashed them hard on the wall. A big hole was directly smashed into the cement wall, and the gravel was flying, which made my ears buzz. Brother Yi, be careful. Xiaolan shouted, and rushed over and poked the Iron Claws at the back of the Iron Claws, but the Iron Claws reacted very quickly. They slapped the small blue into the corner of the wall, spitting blood in their mouths, and couldn't even get up. Little Blue. My eyes were hot, and the anger in my heart burst out. Iron Claw, this bastard, hurt my brother, I must kill him today. I bit my teeth and slammed over, regardless of the injuries on my body, and the electric stick slammed hard at the junction of his left arm. The reaction at that place was indeed half a beat slower, and it was not able to hit it in time. The current directly exploded a string of sparks, and the face of the Iron Claws finally changed. Boy, you're looking for death. He roared angrily, and his right fist hit my chest with a squirm. I knew I couldn't hide, so I simply didn't hide. After being punched, my ribs cracked and I flew out and hit the ground, with a smell of blood. But I didn't fall down, but grabbed the electric stick, stood up and grinned. Is the Iron Claw, that's the energy? I haven't beaten you hard on the internet yet. The Iron Claws narrowed their eyes and they were obviously angry with me. He growled, and Yi's left claw rushed back again. This time it was faster, stronger, and the air was torn apart. I knew in my heart that if this blow was done, I would be dead. But at this moment, the old ghost suddenly rushed over, and the electromagnetic gun started 3 times, accurately hitting the core of the Iron Claw body, sparking 4 times, and the movement of the claws was instantly shattered. Old guy, you're looking for death too. The Iron Claw roared and turned around and kicked the old ghost. The old ghost couldn't hide in time and was kicked in the abdomen. The whole person flew out and hit the broken equipment, unable to move. Taking advantage of this empty file, I gritted my teeth and ran over, and there was only one thought in my brain: fight. The left arm of the Iron Claw was just hit by the old ghost, and the power system was short-circuited, and the action obviously became slower. I grabbed the broken hole in this moment, and the electric stick hit his body's ties with all his strength. At the same time, the whole person hit him, and punched him hard on his chin with the last force. Bang! The punch was real, and I didn't expect that I would still have a strong reaction. I took a step back, half a step, showing an incredible look on my face. His left claw tried to reverse the picture, but the link was stuck and he couldn't move at all. I gasped, my eyes were red, and I gritted my teeth and punched him on the nose, and the blood instantly poured out. Iron Claw, aren't you a ox? Are you going to crush me? Come on! I roared, with a tremendous hatred in every word. The electric stick in my hand had long been gone. When it was an iron stick, it continued to smash, and the fist did not stop, the flesh and blood was filled with it. The Iron Claws finally couldn't hold it up, and his body shook, kneeling on his knees, and his eyes were full of shock for the first time. You dog! He gritted his teeth and cried, his voice full of unwillingness, but before I finished speaking, I grabbed a sharp iron piece on the ground and penetrated into the core line of his body. The sparks were filled with all the time, and his whole body was completely destroyed. His whole body was like a ball that was breathless, falling down, and his eyes gradually dissipated. Dog? I'm Lin Yi in the Neon City. I gasped and looked at him with a low head. My chest was as undulating as a wind box, but the feeling of pleasure in my heart was unprecedented. Iron Claws, the mountain that was pressing against me, was finally knocked down by me. Scar and the remaining thugs were all stunned when they watched this scene, and their feet were involuntarily retreating, their faces full of fear. Scar opened his mouth tremblingly. Lin Yi, you mother dares to kill the boss of Iron Claws? You're done, the entire underground force of Neon City will chase you. Chasing? I sneered, wiped the blood from my face, and stood up straight. Although the pain was so painful that I couldn't stand firm, my aura was a little bit unreal. Tell them that the Iron Claws were fucked by me, Lin Yi, and I want to take revenge. Come to me anytime. From today on, not everyone can step on the snails. Scar didn't dare to say anything anymore, and ran away staggeringly with the man, as if he had seen a ghost. I turned my head and looked at Xiaolan and Lao Gui, and reluctantly smiled. You guys, are you okay? Little Blue covered her stomach and grinned, although her face was still as white as paper. Brother Yi, your mother is too fierce. The Iron Claws are falling down, we are really flipping this way. The old ghost also pointed, with a little more conviction in his eyes. Little ghost, you are fucking beautifully. I have been in Neon City for several decades, and I have never seen a ruthless person like you. I didn't say anything anymore, and sat down against the wall, and every part of my body was hurting, but my heart was as relaxed as if I had removed a mountain. The Iron Claws fell down and the black net collapsed. His strength was probably divided up by other helpers soon. My name, Lin Yi, will also be spread in the underground world of Neon City. From a dog that everyone steps on, to a dog that is hand-fired and helping the boss, it is like dreaming. The sky gradually turned white, and the night in the Neon City finally passed. Outside the old hiding point, the holographic billboard far away was still flashing, but the light could no longer penetrate my eyes. I looked down at the chip in my hand. Although the blue light went out, I knew it gave me a new life. A few days later, Neon City's dark network in the streets and alleys were rumoring to send a message. The Iron Claws collapsed completely, and the boss of the Black Help was punched by a guy named Lin Yi, and the Black Network's middle line was cracked into pieces. Some say I'm a crazy person, some say I'm a monster, but more of it is to regard me as a legend, a legendary detective climbing up from the bottom layer. Xiaolan and I were in the Iron Bar, drinking cheap beer, listening to people around us discussing my name, and I couldn't say it in my heart. Little Blue put up the bottle of wine and smiled. Brother Yi, now the whole Neon City knows you, what are you going to fuck next? Continue to beat someone, or take a big piece of paper, as a detective who is in the 8th district? I took a sip of wine and grinned. Of course you have to beat someone, but the striking activity is also quite interesting. There is still a lot of darkness in Neon City. The Iron Claws are just the beginning, and there are even bigger fish waiting for me to snatch them. We brothers, just form a team and dig these dirty things out. What's the matter? Little Blue Eyes lit up and he slapped the table. Okay. Brother Yi, I'll be with you. From today on, we are the most awesome detectives in Neon City. The old ghost sat in the corner and heard our conversation. Shaba smiled and said, Little ghosts, you have ambition. I can't even relax my old bones. I remember to call me if I have any work in the future. I clicked and looked out the window. The sky in the Neon City was still so dark. The high-rise building blocked the sun, and the streets were still covered with garbage and terrible. But I know in my heart that this city is no longer the same. Because I, Lin Yi, climbed up from the bottom and punched all the unsatisfied guys, becoming a story about this chaotic place. Cheer! I lifted the bottle and touched Xiaolan and Lao Gui for a while. The wine was pouring out, and my smile revered in the broken bar. At this moment, I knew that my era had finally begun.